The stars above Earth were quiet tonight, scattered like frost across a black sea. They glimmered in serene indifference, but everyone in Battle Group Omega knew better. Quiet skies never lasted. Commander Jack Rourke stood alone on the observation deck of the USS Vengeance, a Titan-class warship that loomed like a steel leviathan among its escort vessels. At nearly 3 kilometers long, the Vengeance was the deadliest weapon humanity had ever built. Railguns along its spine capable of shattering mountains, plasma cannons that could boil oceans, and drone bays filled with swarms of autonomous killers. It wasn't just a warship. It was a promise. A promise that if anyone came for Earth, Earth would answer. Rourke's reflection stared back at him in the armored glass, face weathered, dark hair touched with gray, a scar tracing his jawline like a reminder of battles past. He had spent half his life in the void, and he'd seen the galaxy at its worst, but deep down, he still hoped tonight would be another quiet patrol. "Commander?" The voice broke his thoughts. Lieutenant Sarah Caldwell, communications officer, stood just inside the deck doors, holding a data slate. Her face was pale under the red-shifted deck lighting. "We're receiving a Priority 1 distress signal," she said, voice clipped. "Encryption confirms it's military. Origin, Farpoint Colony." Rourke's stomach dropped. Farpoint was humanity's outpost at the edge of explored space, a mining and research station, population just under 30,000. Nothing ever happened there. "Put it through," he said. The main holoscreen blinked to life, filling the deck with static before resolving into the battered face of Governor Elias Trent, Farpoint's civilian administrator. His hair was matted with blood, alarms blaring in the background. "This is Farpoint Colony," Trent shouted over the noise. "We are under attack by unknown hostiles. They came out of nowhere, straight through our defenses. We can't hold." The feed erupted in sparks of static, then cut out completely. For several heartbeats, no one moved. The only sound was the distant hum of the Vengeance's reactor. Rourke turned to the bridge crew, his voice low but firm. "Open a fleet-wide channel." Caldwell nodded, hands flying over her console. "Channel open." Rourke squared his shoulders, his words carrying the weight of steel. "This is Commander Jack Rourke of the Vengeance. All ships, Battle Group Omega is now under war footing. We burn for Farpoint at maximum FTL. All hands to stations, prepare for combat." The ship's klaxons erupted, crimson lights strobing through every corridor. The calm hum of the warship transformed into the organized chaos of war readiness, bulkhead doors sealing, weapons crews rushing to stations, pilots sprinting for launch bays. Minutes later, the Vengeance's massive FTL drive roared to life. Through the deck's forward viewport, the stars elongated into streaks of light, space itself twisting as the ship leapt beyond conventional velocity. The rest of Battle Group Omega followed, the heavy cruiser Salem, destroyers Griffin and Kodiak, and the carrier Artemis. The fleet became a spear, hurtling across the void toward a colony in flames. Commander David Harlow, Rourke's executive officer, stepped beside him. "You think this is pirates?" Rourke didn't look away from the stars. "No pirate fleet moves like that. And pirates don't cut a transmission mid-broadcast." Harlow frowned. "Then what are we walking into?" Rourke turned to meet his eyes. His tone was cold, final. "Something worse." 4 hours later, the fleet dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Farpoint system. Space was no longer calm. The colony's orbital platforms were in ruins, jagged husks bleeding debris. Farpoint's planetary shield flickered like a dying candle, failing under the relentless assault from sleek, black ships that prowled the sky like wolves. "Multiple contacts," Caldwell said, her voice tight. "No transponder codes. No ship profiles in the database. Whatever these are, they're not human." Rourke's hands gripped the command chair. "Bring all guns online. Target those ships." On the forward screen, one of the alien vessels broke formation. It was unlike anything humanity had ever built, its hull a seamless black curve, engines glowing with eerie green light. "It's moving straight at us," shouted Gunnery Chief Marcus Hale. "Railguns hot," Caldwell reported. "Fire," Rourke ordered. The Vengeance's forward batteries unleashed a storm, hypersonic slugs streaking across space. The alien ship dodged with impossible agility, the rounds tearing harmlessly past. Then it struck back, a single beam of green energy that sliced through one of the colony's remaining defense satellites as if it were paper. Holy hell, Harlow breathed. That thing just ignored a direct railgun hit. Rourke's jaw tightened. Helm, bring us closer. If they want a fight, they're going to get one. The rest of the alien fleet reacted immediately, peeling off from their attack on Farpoint to meet the newcomers. The void became a battlefield. The destroyer Griffin launched a salvo of plasma torpedoes, their trails glowing bright against the dark. One alien ship was too slow, vanishing in a silent burst of fire. But the rest moved faster, cutting through space like predators, green lances tearing through the void toward the human fleet. Inside the Vengeance, the deck vibrated with each shot fired. The ship was awake now, alive, hungry. Salem, flank left, Rourke barked. Kodiak, cover the carrier. I want the Artemis's fighter bays clear for launch. The fleet shifted into formation with the precision of a blade being drawn. Outside, Farpoint burned. Rourke stood, hands clasped behind his back, every muscle tense. He could feel the crew's fear and their resolve. They were Earth's best, humanity's shield against the dark. But tonight, the dark had come to them first. He watched the alien ships wheel around, faster than anything human made, and knew this was only the beginning. Transmit to all ships, he said quietly. Battle Group Omega is engaged. No quarter. Caldwell hesitated only a moment before repeating his words fleet-wide. The calms were filled with acknowledgments. And then, in perfect silence, the deadliest fleet Earth had ever built charged headlong into the fire. The first shot had been fired. Now the void erupted into war. Railgun slugs streaked from the Vengeance's forward batteries, hypersonic rounds glowing with residual plasma as they tore through space. Plasma torpedoes arced from the Salem's launch bays, detonating in blossoms of blue fire that lit the darkness like lightning strikes. The alien fleet scattered like startled predators, their sleek, black ships banking and weaving with impossible agility. Target lock cycling, shouted Gunnery Chief Marcus Hale, fingers flying over fire control interfaces. They're jamming our tracking systems hard. Then go manual, Commander Jack Rourke snapped from the command chair. If we can't match their speed, we'll drown them in fire. The Vengeance roared, her guns answering with another punishing volley. The alien response was immediate. Emerald lances carved across the void, too fast for the naked eye. One beam struck the Kodiak, a glancing hit that still ripped through half its starboard armor. Fire blossomed from the destroyer's hull, venting atmosphere into space. Damage report from the Kodiak. Lieutenant Sarah Caldwell shouted. Decks 3 through 6 breached, but they're still in the fight. Good, Rourke growled. Keep them there. Artemis reports fighter wings are prepped for launch, Commander David Harlow said from the Exos console. Launch them, Rourke ordered. Full deployment. I want those bastards swarmed. The Artemis's massive launch bays lit up as magnetic catapults hurled starfighters into the fray. Dozens of craft fanned out in tight formations, engines blazing white. Inside one of those cockpits, Lieutenant Mason Rook Kepler grinned under his helmet. Omega Wing, form up, his voice crackled over comms. Stay tight, stay fast, and watch their tails. Copy that, came the reply from Lieutenant Dana Frost Havel, his wingmate. Their fighters cut through the void, diving toward the alien formation. Contact in 10 seconds. Rook called. Weapons free. The first pass was pure chaos. Human starfighters unleashed micromissiles and plasma bursts, filling the space between fleets with lethal light. One alien ship exploded, spinning apart in burning fragments. Cheers rang through the comms, but they died quickly as the enemy answered. Green lances speared through the formation, vaporizing fighters in single hits. Rook's cockpit shook as a blast passed too close, warning alarms shrieking. Viper 3 is gone. Frost shouted, voice tight with shock. Keep it together. Rook barked, wheeling his fighter hard and pulling the trigger. His plasma cannons raked across an alien ship's engines. The vessel staggered, spiraling out of control before detonating. One for us, Rook muttered. On the Vengeance, Rourke watched the battle unfold, jaw tight. Artemis, pull back your damaged squadrons. Rotate fresh fighters in. Griffin, Kodiak, tighten formation around the carrier. The fleet moved with deadly precision, years of training turning chaos into coordinated destruction. But the aliens weren't amateurs. Two black ships darted under the fleet's guns, slipping past the Salem's defensive screen. They're going for the carrier. Harlow shouted. Not on my watch, Rourke growled. Bring the Vengeance about full power to forward batteries. The Vengeance swung like a predator turning to strike. Her railguns thundered, tearing one attacker apart in a flash of light. The second tried to evade, but Hale tracked it manually, landing a direct hit that split it in two. Target neutralized, Hale reported grimly. But for every alien ship destroyed, two more seemed to appear. They're testing us, Rourke realized aloud, eyes narrowing. Probing our formation. They're learning how we fight. Then we stop giving them lessons, Harlow replied grimly. Rourke didn't hesitate. Load the Thor rounds. The deck went quiet. Even the hum of the reactor seemed to pause. Sir, Harlow said cautiously, those are. I know what they are, Rourke cut him off. His voice was iron. Load them. Deep in the ship's armored spine, automated loaders moved massive tungsten rods into place. Each one was over 30 meters long and designed for one purpose, obliteration. Target locked, Hale confirmed. Rourke's hand tightened on the chair arm. Fire. The Vengeance shuddered as her main railgun discharged. The slug accelerated to near relativistic speed, glowing white-hot as it tore across space. It hit the alien ship dead center. For a split second, the vessel seemed to hang suspended, then it disintegrated in a blinding flash, fragments scattering like shrapnel across the void. The shockwave slammed into the surrounding formation, spinning two more enemy ships out of control. A cheer erupted across the deck. One down, Harlow said, almost smiling. Dozens to go. But there was no time to celebrate. Multiple enemy contacts vectoring in. Caldwell called. They're regrouping. Then so do we, Rourke snapped. All ships, close ranks. Bring them into the kill box. The fleet tightened formation, overlapping their shields and focusing fire into a single corridor of space. The aliens charged, and this time, they paid dearly. Railgun fire and plasma storms shredded them as they entered the crossfire. One by one, their sleek black hulls blossomed into green-lit wreckage. But victory came at a cost. On the tactical display, the Kodiak's icon flared red. Direct hit. Caldwell cried. They've lost engines, they're dead in space. Get me their captain. Rourke barked. The screen flickered to show Captain Renee Solis, her face streaked with soot, alarm screaming behind her. We're holding for now, she said through gritted teeth. But we won't last another hit. You'll last, Rourke said, his tone leaving no room for doubt. We're not leaving anyone behind. The battle stretched on for what felt like hours, every minute a blur of fire and destruction. Finally, the alien formation began to break. Their surviving ships wheeled away, vanishing into the dark one by one. Sir, Caldwell said hesitantly, I don't think they're retreating. They're repositioning. Before Rourke could respond, alarms blared. Massive power surge, she shouted. Source, the planet. A moment later, a column of green light erupted from Farpoint's surface. It slammed into the nearest alien ship, cutting it apart like a scalpel through flesh. The rest of the alien fleet hesitated, then fled, jumping out of the system entirely. Silence fell over the bridge. What the hell was that? Harlow whispered. Caldwell shook her head, staring at her screen as though it might give her answers. That wasn't us. Rourke rose slowly from his chair. Bring us into orbit. Prep ground teams. I want to know what's down there. His voice carried through the deck like a battle hymn. We're not done yet. And deep beneath Farpoint's scarred surface, whatever had fired that beam was waiting. The landing zone looked like the grave of a world. Commander Jack Rourke stepped off the shuttle and into choking smoke, his boots crunching over scorched ground. Farpoint's colony domes had been reduced to melted glass and twisted steel. The air reeked of burned circuitry and ash. Marines fanned out in a defensive perimeter, rifles up, visors sweeping. Overhead, the Vengeance and her escorts held station in low orbit, guns still hot, shields flaring as they intercepted falling debris. Rourke's comm crackled. "Commander," Lieutenant Sarah Caldwell's voice came through. "No enemy contacts in range. But we're getting strange readings below the surface. Energy spikes, massive ones." Rourke turned to Major Alex Bishop, Omega's ground force commander. "Take your team and find those readings. If it powered that planetary cannon, I want to know what we're sitting on before the enemy decides to come back." "Yes, sir." Bishop signaled to his Marines, and they moved toward the cratered heart of the colony. They found survivors in ones and twos, huddled in burned-out shelters or trapped under debris. One man, face smeared with soot, grabbed Rourke's arm with desperate strength. "They weren't here to kill us," he rasped. "They were searching. Tearing through every lab, every dig site. Looking for something buried." "What?" Rourke asked, crouching. The man's eyes were wild. "Old ruins. Deep below the colony. The researchers said it wasn't human, older than anything we've ever found." And then the ground opened up. His voice broke. "We didn't fire that beam, Commander. Something else did." Deep below, Bishop's team breached the colony's sublevels. Their helmet lamps lit tunnels of blackened rock and shattered research equipment. Strange symbols were carved into the walls, geometric patterns glowing faintly, pulsing as if alive. "This place is wrong," one Marine muttered. Bishop didn't disagree. The deeper they went, the more alien the tunnels became. At the lowest chamber, they found what the enemy must have been hunting, a monolithic structure, humming with green light. Before they could investigate further, sensors flared. "Contact!" Bishop barked. Shapes moved in the dark, not alien ships this time, but drones, spider-like constructs with glowing eyes and plasma claws. The first one lunged. Bishop's rifle barked, tearing it apart, but more swarmed from the shadows. "Rourke," Bishop shouted over comms, gunfire echoing. "We've got hostiles down here, automated defense systems. They're protecting whatever this is." "Hold position," Rourke ordered, striding back to the shuttle. "We're coming to you." Even as Rourke descended into the ruins, Caldwell's panicked voice broke through. "Commander! Long-range scans just lit up, enemy reinforcements incoming. Triple the numbers we faced before." Rourke's jaw hardened. "All ships to red alert. Battle Group Omega is to hold this system. No retreat." "Sir," Harlow's voice was quiet. "If we lose this fight, then we make sure it costs them everything," Rourke said. Minutes later, the ground team emerged from the tunnels, carrying several injured Marines. Bishop's face was grim. "Whatever's down there, it's not human. It's some kind of planetary defense system, old as hell but still functional. I think the aliens were trying to shut it down." Rourke looked skyward, at the stars now glinting with the signatures of enemy ships dropping out of FTL. "They failed," he said. "Now let's make them regret coming back." The Second Battle of Farpoint began with a roar. The alien fleet arrived in perfect formation, dozens of black ships, their green drives burning like ghostly lanterns. "Concentrate fire on their vanguard," Rourke ordered as he strode onto the Vengeance's bridge. "Helm, bring us into the center of the formation. We're punching straight through." The fleet surged forward, a spear of fire and steel. The Vengeance's railguns thundered, 4 rounds slamming into the enemy's forward ships and tearing them apart in blinding bursts. The Salem and Griffin followed with precision volleys, overlapping their fire until space itself seemed to burn. Fighters screamed from the Artemis's bays, interceptors engaging in brutal dogfights among the stars. Inside his cockpit, Rook Kepler gritted his teeth as enemy fire streaked past. "They just keep coming," Frost shouted over comms, pulling a hard turn to avoid a green lance. "Then we keep killing them." Rook snarled, unleashing a missile salvo that shredded an enemy interceptor into shards. But Omega was bleeding. The Kodiak, already damaged, took another direct hit. Flames ripped through its midsection before the ship split apart, vanishing in a white flare. "Kodiak is gone," Caldwell whispered. Rourke's fists clenched, but his voice was steady. "All hands, maintain formation. We hold this line." Then, as if the planet itself had been waiting, the ground erupted again. A beam of green light lanced skyward from Farpoint's surface, cutting through the enemy flagship like a scalpel. The ship didn't explode, it folded in on itself, vanishing in a flash of distorted space. Every alien vessel hesitated. "Now!" Rourke roared. "Push everything we've got." Omega surged forward in a final, desperate charge. The Vengeance fired her last Thor round, the slug smashing through 2 enemy cruisers in one shot. The Salem unleashed every plasma torpedo left in her magazines, detonating half a dozen enemy escorts. Fighters poured fire into the fleeing survivors, cutting them down as they turned to run. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. Silence fell. The stars were littered with wreckage, drifting bodies, and cooling fire. No alien ship remained. On the bridge, the crew was silent, too exhausted to cheer. The cost was heavy, the Kodiak gone, half the fighter squadrons wiped out, hundreds of crew dead. But Farpoint still stood. Rourke turned slowly to Caldwell. "Transmit to Earth Command." Farpoint secured. Enemy repelled. Then he faced the viewport, the burning planet below reflected in his eyes. "And tell them Battle Group Omega is still operational. If these things come back," his voice was quiet, but hard enough to cut steel, "we'll be waiting." Far below, in the ruins of the colony, the green-lit monolith pulsed once more, as if acknowledging the battle's end. Whatever ancient power lay sleeping beneath Farpoint, it had chosen to defend humanity. And now, the galaxy would know. Earth's deadliest fleet had answered the call with fury.